Hello and welcome to the 206. My name is Mark, coming to you from Seattle, Washington, and this is the 2026 season premiere of the Changing Directions Filmmaker Interview Series. And joining me today is Abigail Hing Wen, a multi-talented creator who can include writer, director, and producer among her many credits across different media platforms. And her short film, The Vale Origins, will have its world premiere during this year's San Diego Comic-Con event, or by the time this gets out there, probably already will have premiered. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. So, Abigail, welcome to the 206.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. Now, to start off, tell me about your book series, The Veil, how this short film came about out of that, and then how it ties into the overall narrative that you're telling with this world and these characters.
Yeah, so I wish I had a copy to show you. I can show you the cute little collectible cards we've got going on. That's a picture
Oh,
from
cool.
the cover itself, and there's my little Nomi, my elves. They're super cute. But
That is really neat.
it's a novel that I wrote in 2015, and it's about an inventor family that creates an AI-generated virtual fantasy world. And it was too early to publish. So I had to wait a decade for the zeitgeist to catch up with me at the time.
Right.
My agent at the time said, nobody has heard of AI. What is AI generation? No one's heard of this. No one's going to read this book. So I actually had to shelve that book. And I, meanwhile, published Love Boat Taipei, which was my breakout novel that became the movie Love in Taipei that's now streaming on Netflix internationally. I wrote another book, a fourth book, and then I was interested in becoming a director and was told I needed a calling card, so some kind of short film project. And when I looked at my portfolio of work, the one that made the most sense was actually the prequel to The Veil, which is the emotional story of why this family decided to create this virtual fantasy world to begin with. And little did I know, it's like a really complicated project to create a hybrid live action and animated film, especially one that goes back and forth between the real world and the animated world. Because basically, the kid, every time he puts the helmet on and goes into this virtual world, we're now in an
Right.
animated space. So I I kind of dived in headlong. I raised financing, and we cast and crewed up, and we were thrilled that Lea Salonga agreed to headline the short for us. And we filmed over 2 to 4 days, like 2 days initially principal, and then we had two more follow-on days.
Wow.
And I worked on the animation alongside it in post for quite a while. Animation takes a really long time. So now I'm just so thrilled that we are ready to launch our world premiere at San Diego Comic-Con. I could not imagine a better place to have our world premiere. And we ended up publishing the book. So it came out in 2015 with a Third State, sorry, 2025 with Third State Books. And we actually have a Roblox game, one Roblox obby game and a second Roblox game in the works. So the
Good. Oh,
franchise is
wow.
expanding in so many ways that I never imagined. We've got, not just the collectible cards, but we've got these Gnome plushies and the illustrated novel,
Wow.
t-shirts and hats. Like it's just kind of exploding in many different directions.
Yeah, so you've got this whole universe that you're building out. That's amazing. So, congratulations on that. And that's got to be a lot um, to kind of comprehend and think about going into all these different ways that you can expand the project. One of the things that really caught my attention, and you mentioned, caught my attention about the Veil Origins that you mentioned, is that you have the one and only Lea Salonga front and center as the star, and she's pretty fantastic in the role. I was able to watch the short film here in the last couple of days, and she's as we know she's a legend, but we all know her status in the Philippines music and culture, and also an actual real life Disney legend. So how did she come on board the project, and what can you say about working with her just as a human being in this short film?
Yeah, absolutely. So she had actually been really supportive of the launch of I Love Boat Taipei books, which I was so grateful for.
Oh,
And I just kept in touch with her. Every new book I had, I would send a copy to her through her manager. And when we were looking to cast Addie, the mother character, the character is a roboticist who has builds robots and is a hardware engineer. And I was looking for an Asian American female lead to play it. And I thought, that would be amazing for her to play this role. She's played so many kinds of roles. She's been a Disney princess. She's been Miss Saigon. She's been like the street urchin Eponine in Les Miserables. And like, this is a really different role for her. And I thought, like, it'd
right.
be so cool to see her as this badass scientist and a mother as well as a wife. So I was so thrilled when she said yes. I couldn't believe it when her manager told me it was a go. And it was wonderful to work with her. We even got to, not only was she like on screen as our lead actress, she also sang a special post-closing credits song called Lavender's Blue. It's a rearrangement
Okay.
that my daughter Andromeda did. Andromeda's our composer who scored the film. And so it was really fun to collaborate with both my daughter and Leia on that piece.
Wow, that's amazing. So it sounds like she was already involved in, with your work or at least familiar with it from the stuff that you've done before. So that's really cool that she's able to just jump in and be a part of the film. So thank you for expanding that a bit. Now, we'll get back to the short film in just a moment, but I want to kind of expand on some of these topics as well. But aside from Lea Salonga, obviously, who is a singer or band that you're really into just like right now in general?
Oh gosh, I think I'm really enjoying all the K-pop stars. Like just, K-pop Demon Hunter was such a phenomenon. And
Right.
yeah, I think there's like so many amazing stars out of Korea. My daughter's really into Japan pop, which is not as well known. It's more indie. And so I've like been listening along with those to her too.
Oh wow. Yeah, there's a lot going on there, and I don't know if you can see this is a Philippines pop group, Beanie, who
Oh,
I've
there.
been a
Love
fan of
it.
for a while. So yeah, I have to get my mention of them in there as well. But yeah, J-pop I think is a little underrated, and K-pop is definitely having its moment. So yeah, that's really cool. I like to hear all of these different types of styles out there. Now, Abigail, you also have, you had mentioned the 11 Taipei movie that's on Netflix, which is adapted from another one of your books. So with that in mind, and then, transitioning back into the short film topics, what has been the biggest challenge, going from author to screenwriter and now also adding director to your resume with the short film?
Well, strangely enough, being a novelist and being a director are very similar because as the novelist, it's just you and the page and you do everything, right? You design the costumes, you think about the
Yeah.
lighting and the pacing and the cinematography, and that's what a director does. But in some ways, being a director is easier because you have help. You have the production designer to think about the sets, and you have the cinematographer who's moving the camera in and out and trying to create like the mood and the tone and the lighting. And so I think because of my background working in leadership in Silicon Valley, I also am comfortable running teams of talent and making sure that
Mhm.
department heads are coordinating across function. Like communication is the key when you have a 150-person team. So I found that stepping into directing was a really natural transition for me. And I actually just directed my second short film, which we're going to be announcing at our panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh wow. Oh, that's amazing. And I never really thought about that before. As an author, you're actually designing every little detail of everything from the clothing to, we can go on about that, but that's really interesting. Thank you for explaining that. And that does make for an interesting transition into being a director. That's good stuff. So, on the other side of that, what's something you've learned from making this short film that you would now take with you into future projects? Does something really stand out from the experience like that?
I think it's like it's an apprenticeship. Like you once you know it, you know it. It's very hard to get set experience. And I got it when I did Love in Taipei. And then with The Veil, it was my first experience directing it. But that actually I brought into my second short film. Like now that I know how sets are run, it was really easy to crew up on the second short film. We had it was an all student-led production. And so there was one person that had actual set experience, and the others I'm like, here's your roles, go study them up, and I will course correct along the way. And it was one of the most functional sets I've ever been on. So I
Wow.
think definitely having the know-how enables me to just kind of mentor up talent really quickly and move things forward.
Sure. Now, you mentioned, just the collaborative experience. So, with all the different talents and skills that you've developed through all these different projects, who out there inspires you as a creator?
Oh, I think it's the people I work with. I've just really met some wonderful gems along the way. And my animation director, John Ashima, was so talented. My production designer, Emma Ko, who did the live action production design, Neil Blevins, who was the animation production designer, Brandon Wu, he was one of the illustrators of the novel, as well as the character designer for the short film. Every one of these creators that I work with who brings so much talent and passion and heart and integrity to the project. Um, that speaks volumes to me. And it's really, that's the reward of what we do. It's part of the process, but it's also the reward of getting to just merge your creative mind with their creative minds and really make something amazing together.
Wow, I imagine there's a lot of relationship building in there as well as you move along.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, on the other side of that, then, who inspires you that's not a filmmaker or an author?
Ooh, great question. My kids are a really important part of everything I do. I used to joke that our family dinners are basically an incubator. So we just share ideas, we workshop our ideas. Like even the veil, I wrote it when my kids were young, and my younger one at the time like read the book over and over, and that's partly why I knew there was something there. She designed the original Gnome Elf, which was fun too. So I handed
Oh,
that over to my illustrator and said, like, this is kind of the prototype for my elf. So they're such great kids. They're good people. They're passionate. They're engaged in the world. They wanna leave the world a better place. So yeah, they're definitely a source of inspiration for me. Yeah, there's our known Lee.
that's really cool. And you had mentioned the family dinners being a big part of that. What's your favorite comfort food?
Ooh, I actually, oh gosh, that's a good one. I love Chinese food. Any
Uh,
kind of Chinese food. Dim sum is probably my go-to. We probably have dim sum
nice.
once a
Yeah.
week. And I would tell my kids like the best part of being Chinese is the food, which is so reductive, but it's actually quite true. It is definitely high up
Oh,
there.
I can imagine. Yeah, just now, do you prefer like are there certain restaurants that, I mean, we don't have to name them, but are there
Mhm.
certain restaurants that you have as like your go-to, or is it more of like something that you can make at home?
Yeah, so dim sum we can't make at home. I mean, you can kind of get some boxes at Costco of like the
Right.
shrimp, and stuff. But there are probably three dim sum restaurants that we go between. But I also love trying new foods and new restaurants.
Sure. Oh, that's amazing. I always have to talk about food a little bit because that's a big part of my world as well. So thank you on that. Now, from looking at your body of work, we've talked a little bit about some of the different projects. It's pretty clear that representation in all forms of media is something that's very important to you. So what does it mean for you to be able to put yourself out there while giving these stories to the world?
Ah, great question. I think every book that you write is partly working out your own issues. So the Love But Taipei series was about me thinking about my relationship with my cultural heritage, being the daughter of immigrants who'd sacrificed so
Mhm.
much so that I could have a better life in this country. And that's part of Ever Wong's journey. How does she pursue her passions for dancing while still honoring her family that wants her to be a doctor? And they want her to be a doctor out of love, not some kind of evil agenda. And that's part of her journey too, and recognizing that it comes from a place of love, but then it's still a real pressure. How do you navigate that? Um, Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies centers three Asian American teenagers that are being chased around the Bay Area for the cryptocurrencies that have accidentally come into their possession. And that is kind of me reflecting on this bizarre Silicon Valley world that my kids have grown up in, like where the kids are so tech savvy,
Right.
and also the technology is just so amazing. Like in our time, this is the golden age of this tech boom. And I feel really privileged and honored to be a part of that and commenting on it and writing about it. So I think that's really like a slice of life story. And then The Veil is it's a reflection on AI technology. I wrote it to democratize access to this powerful technology that I saw seeping into all aspects of our lives with the world not being aware of it. So it's very accessible. My hope is that people who read it, kids as well as adults, will come away with a deeper intuitive understanding of how AI generation works so they can better take advantage of the potential of it, but also guard against the pitfalls.
Well, yeah, now my next question, you're kind of leading into the question really well here. Is there a persistent message or theme that you want to get across with your books and movies, specifically with The Veil?
Yeah, so with the veil, I think one of the most fundamental themes is actually that good people need to go into technology. It's the engineers who are on the front lines of building these tools that make them what they are. It's the
Mhm.
eng like governments, they can legislate all they want, but they don't, by the time they get to a technology, it's done, it's built. And can they really can they really ascertain whether it's been built the way they want it to be built? Again, it comes down to the
Right.
engineers on the front line who can choose to build these technologies in ethical ways. So the Veil is about ethical AI. The Lee family deliberately chose not to use copyrighted works, so it's trained on their own works. It's trained on works that are out long expired from the copyright, and it's also a good world because it's infused with their values, and that shows and that's reflected in the world that's created.
Well, that's really interesting. And I never really thought about that, how you bring up how the government is basically reacting to these things that already exist. So that's
Mhm.
something to really, I think, gives people an opportunity to contemplate on that. So thank you. So now, what do you want people to feel when they watch or read your projects?
So the short film that we're premiering at San Diego Comic-Con, and I will say that those who cannot make San Diego Comic-Con, please follow me on social media or sign up for my newsletter at my website, abigailhingwen.com, and I'll let you know when you can watch the short film because it will be
Okay,
available online very shortly.
nice.
Um, but actually, I'll just tell you, it's actually going to be on Kinema, so look out for it on Kinema.
Oh, okay, perfect.
But the short film prequel is the emotional core of why the family decided to build this in the first place. And, not,
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it, but there is a miscarriage story, which is not a story that you often hear. It's a female story, it's a family story, and it's a story about grief and how do we process and come out of that grief. So I do hope people can take away the both like that sense of loss, but also the sense of hope that creativity and imagination gives back to us.
Wow, that's incredible. And yeah, it was pretty, there's a big emotional impact there that, like I said, we won't really dive into that, but yeah, I think that really came across. So thank you for pointing that out as well. Now, Abigail, after going through the entire process of creating this world that you've called the Veil and now putting the short film out in the world, what's the first thing that comes to mind that makes you feel gratitude?
Oh, there's so much. I think working with incredibly wonderful people is the single thing. Being a writer is very lonely and solitary. It's just you and the page.
Mm.
And then eventually you've got you, your agent, and your editor. But making a film involves 150 people. And what I didn't realize about even being an author is that a community comes up around you. Like the people who read your book, who support your events, who like help get word out, like all that becomes part of your ecosystem. And I had no idea that would happen. Like I'm now connected to thousands and thousands of people. And that's like it's a long way from being this like kind of lonely girl growing up in Ohio.
No, I love the fact that you mentioned community. I think that's a really big part and big piece of, the gratitude component. So that's, I mean, to me, that's just says something really special about the approach that you're taking and just how you're looking at creating these projects. So thank you for that. Now, Abigail, as we wrap things up, I'd like to take a moment to thank you also, one for writing your books, for making the veil, and for being such an advocate for all the things that are important to you, like we just talked about. And, just my opinion in getting to know you a little bit today and watching the short film, you really are making a difference in the world. So, and then just, of course, thank you for taking the time to do this interview as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for such thoughtful questions. And I love Seattle. My sister-in-law used to live there before she moved. So I would love an opportunity to come up and say hi to everybody. But thank you, Seattle, for listening and for reading and watching and supporting. That's really why I do what I do. And your support makes all the difference.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm sure everybody would love to see you back up here. So hopefully you can make that happen at some point. So thank you so much. Now, once again, the short film is called The Veil Origins. It's going to premiere or will have premiered by the time you watch this at San Diego Comic-Con. Will be available to watch. So keep, follow Abigail on social media and website. This is director Abigail. I was trying to think of which title to give you there, but director definitely Abigail Hing Wen. My name is Mark, and this is the 206 Changing Directions interview series. Now, all of my interviews and movie reviews are available on 206.com. And as she mentioned, you can learn more about Abigail on her website, which is abigailhingwen.com, which will also lead you to her social media for all of the updates about the short film and projects moving forward. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you so much. Be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all. Bye.